Hey, welcome back. Now we continue with our talk on persuasive talks. So how does this differ from the informational talk? In some ways, it's very similar. There should always be a hook, like an opening that grabs people's attention by trying to appeal to whatever is going to be most interesting to them. There should be a body of 2 or 3 main points, and there should be an identifiable closing in which you wrap up. This one's a little bit longer, though. We're looking at 10 to 13 minutes plus 2 minutes for questions. It's probably the more difficult one. It's a bit of an exercise in subtlety, too. We expect you to, we'll come back to that. So your job as a speaker is a little bit different in this one, too. Whereas in the other one, some of you sort of default to narrating a PowerPoint, right? And the main point, this isn't necessarily a good thing, but you and the PowerPoint are sort of on equal footing and you're pointing at it and talking a lot. In this one, your job as the speaker is to try to focus most of the talk on you most of the time. It's really about your voice and your message, and the visuals are meant to augment that, but not to sort of take the place of it. And we'll talk about what that means in a minute. It's also different in terms of the way that you employ objectives, visuals, and interaction. And it must include a call to action, right? If you get to the end and you don't ask them to do anything, you haven't done a persuasive talk. Sorry. All right, cool. Let's move on. So again, your job as the speaker, not merely to train them to do something or to inform them about something, but to try to change their attitudes and beliefs. And so an excellent delivery does not mean success, right? Because if you get up there and you give a jam-up speech, but then you don't ask them to do anything, have you changed their attitudes? You don't know. And so, so that's what we're looking for, is did it use all 3 of the rhetorical points to try to bring people around to your way of thinking. When it comes to objectives, and I know that this is the thing that we've trained into you, because objectives are helpful for writing a speech. Yes, you should have them. Yes, you should use them to organize your talk. But you should not overtly state them in a talk, because again, when you think about your Martin Luther King Jr. "I have a dream" speech, he's not "I have a dream, but first we're going to learn about these things today, people. We're going to learn about," no, you don't do that. That's really awkward. This one is much more of a speechy speech. So go ahead and write your objectives, put them in your plan, use them to organize your talk to help you make sure that you're achieving whatever, you have to have objectives, otherwise you don't know where you're going. But you don't put them into your talk. They're definitely not a slide. So anyhow, people will still do that wrong. The way that we use visuals is different in persuasive speeches. Yes, you should have visuals, but they're there to enhance the rational or emotional appeal, right? And so sort of a great example is somebody invariably will do a talk on horse slaughter. And in their talk, they'll have in the background these gaunt, emaciated horses, and that's there to drive home the emotional appeal of horse slaughter. Whatever your stance on it is. They don't necessarily turn around and refer to it, right? Again, this is a thing that people will do wrong. They will they will sort of use them in the wrong way. And so I got a good video here of how to use props properly use props. And it's from Susan Cain, her Power of Introverts talk. And I want you to pay attention to, we're only going to watch the first 8 minutes of it, but I want you to pay attention to how she uses the props to talk about going away to camp.
When I was 9 years old, I went off to summer camp for the first time, and my mother packed me a suitcase full of books, which to me seemed like a perfectly natural thing to do, because in my family, reading was the primary group activity. And this might sound antisocial to you, but for us, it was really just a different way of being social. You had the animal warmth of your family sitting right next to you, but you were also free to go roaming around the adventure land inside your own mind. And I had this idea that camp was going to be just like this, but better. I had a vision of 10 girls sitting in a cabin, cozily reading books in their matching nightgowns. Camp was more like a keg party without any alcohol. And on the very first day, our counselor gathered us all together, and she taught us a cheer that she said we would be doing every day for the rest of the summer to instill camp spirit. And it went like this. R-O-W-D-I-E, that's the way we spell rowdy, 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 let's get rowdy. Yeah. So I couldn't figure out for the life of me why we were supposed to be so rowdy, or why we had to spell this word incorrectly.
She's really funny. Anyway, so hopefully you noticed like the way that she used her props, right? Like it was meant to, she's talking about going away to camp, and she had her little bag there with her, and it sort of helped us, get into the mindset of like, oh, this girl's going away to camp because she's holding her little suitcase and whatnot. And it, sort of lent itself to the story. And so if you have props, you can, you use them that way. What she did not do is to like launch into a training demo, right? Like I was going away to camp and I packed this book and I packed this book and let's see what else is in my bag. No, because the speech is not about the bag. It's just there to augment it. Now, let's watch this lady who's here to talk about video games and the way that she uses visuals.
I'm Jane McGonigal. I'm a game designer. I've been making games online now for 10 years, and my goal for the next decade is to try to make it as easy to save the world in real life as it is to save the world in online games. Now, I have a plan for this, and it entails convincing more people, including all of you, to spend more time playing bigger and better games. Right now, we spend 3 billion hours a week playing online games. Some of you might be thinking, that's a lot of time to spend playing games, maybe too much time, considering how many urgent problems we have to solve in the real world. But actually, according to my research at the Institute for the Future, it's actually the opposite is true. 3 billion hours a week is not nearly enough gameplay to solve the world's most urgent problems. In fact, I believe that if we want to survive the next century on this planet, we need to increase that total dramatically. I've calculated the total we need at 21 billion hours of gameplay every week. So that's probably a bit of a counterintuitive idea, so I'll say it again, let it sink in. If we want to solve problems like hunger, poverty, climate change, global conflict, obesity, I believe that we need to aspire to play games online for at least 21 billion hours a week by the end of the next decade. No, I'm serious. I am. Here's why. This picture pretty much sums up why I think games are so essential to the future survival of the human species. Truly. This is a portrait by a photographer named Phil Toledano. He wanted to capture the emotion of gaming, so he set up a camera in front of gamers while they were playing. And this is a classic gaming emotion. Now, if you're not a gamer, you might miss some of the nuance in this photo. You probably see the sense of urgency, a little bit of fear, but intense concentration, deep focus on tackling a really difficult problem. If you are a gamer, you will notice a few nuances here. The crinkle of the eyes up and around the mouth is a sign of optimism. And the eyebrows up is surprise. This is a gamer who's on the verge of something called an epic win. Now, oh, you've heard of that. Okay, good. So we have some gamers among us. So an epic.
All right, anyway, I wonder what it's like to work at the Institute of the Future. I bet they don't even have toilets. Anyhow, all right. So, like a couple things about their talks. You'll notice that their visuals didn't have a lot of stuff on them, right? They were meant to just sort of emphasize, drive home main points. Again, the purpose, the main focus should always be on you as the presenter. And so you should have very minimal stuff up on the screen. So, she had, 3 billion people, right? Or 3 billion hours rather. That's just one thing just to help us know. And then the kid, obviously, of the portrait, that she left up there. And she could have, and these are good, right? Because she could have described, what it's like to have an epic win and whatnot, but showing it helped. But what she did not do was like narrate a PowerPoint, right? She did not turn around and be like, as you can see, I've projected a graph here of the, number of hours that we need to increase over the next 10 years. No, the focus was still very much on her. And she just had like these sort of things. So whenever you catch yourself putting too much text on the slide or having too many slides in particular, sit back and say, like, if I could pare this down to like just a couple words, just a couple slides, what would be the main things to put up there? Okay. Other things for persuasive speeches is that there are no activities in persuasive speeches. Again, like, I have a dream, but first turn to a buddy. No, that is not a thing that happened. So, again, because these are, intended to be delivered in a place where you're not necessarily, have the capacity to like teach people like in a workshop. But there are what we call rhetorical devices, right? That are sort of ways to interact with people, but without requiring them to get up and like write on flip chart paper. And so a couple of these are, rhetorical questions, right? So questions that there aren't necessarily an answer for, but they're just there to make you think. So if you're doing one on, GMOs, for example, like you could ask, like, what is the trade-off between, a product that has no known, this is why you should prepare for your speeches. A product that has no known side effects, but has the ability to feed millions of people, And so that's a rhetorical question. It's meant to make you think about it. So think about like how you can work those in. Those are particularly good right at the beginning. You could also have metaphors and similes. So metaphors are things that are, there are metaphors, and then similes are things that are like one another, as a way to just sort of a mental way to bring people along with you on your talk. And then probably the one that gets used the most is imagine a world where, et cetera, et cetera. And so it kind of brings them along. It's a mental activity as opposed to a physical activity. And so that's kind of what we're looking for. You can build in like rhetorical questions at a logical time, right? And then if you pose them properly and at the right time and they're the right questions, you can get a lot of mileage out of them, right? So you can keep coming back to them and move through your talk. So, all right, cool. So we're going to talk about call to actions now. This is the thing that people always forget, and I don't know why, because it's like literally a checkbox on the rubric. But so what is a call to action? It's the thing at the end where you finally, after laying out your argument for why they should believe what you believe, it's the point where you actually ask them to do a specific thing, whether it's to buy your new product or to, get out there and, mobilize or write your senator or whatever it is, to believe in, having horse slaughter facilities in America, whatever it is. You have to figure out what the action is that the person can take in the audience, and then make that action simple, specific, and achievable, right? So don't be like, and now get out there and end world hunger, because like, what does that even mean? Nobody knows how to tackle that. It's too big of a problem. But if you get to say, all right, now that's why everybody here is going to drop off like 3 cans of food to such and such food bank on Friday, that's the thing that we can achieve. The other thing is you only get one call per speech, right? So you can't get to the end of your talk and be like, and that's why you should write your senator and deliver food and tip over cars. Like, no, like you get one thing. And then, excuse me, as you deliver, make your call, like you want to ask with confidence, because nobody, wants to follow you if you're kind of, doesn't sound like you're sold on the thing that you're selling. But once you ask them to, drop off food at the food pantry, you immediately want to follow up with like what the benefit of that is to back up the call. And that's why, you say, if you drop off just 3 cans of food, like you can feed a family of 4 tonight or something. I'm not really sure what that is or how that works. So, all right. When we come back, we'll talk about putting together your persuasive speech, some like nuts and bolts stuff.